Sagittarius energy is your soul's call to grow, evolve, and expand beyond the known. But when this energy is hidden in a house, it can get blocked by fear, overthinking, or attachment to safety. In this video, we're breaking down Sagittarius through the 12 houses to show where you've settled for a version of life that feels too small, where your soul is begging you to take the leap into the unknown, and how rigidity, fear of failure, and comfort zones may be holding you back. This is not about being reckless. It's about honoring the part of you that was never meant to play it safe. So let's get into what each house reveals about the area of your life that's ready to expand. If you trust the timing and take the leap. So grab your birth chart, find the house or houses that Sagittarius sits in, and let's dive in.
Sagittarius in the first house is where your identity, energy, and way of moving through the world are all shaped by the soul's non-negotiable need for growth, truth, and freedom. This placement makes you a natural explorer, but when unbalanced, you may settle for an identity that feels safe, even if your soul is screaming for something bigger. With Sagittarius ruling your first house, your entire way of being is infused with the need to grow, explore, and expand. You're not here to stay in one role, one identity, or one version of yourself for long. You came into this life with a soul that craves movement, not just physical travel, but personal evolution. Your identity is shaped by who you're becoming, not who you've been. There's a deep, innate sense that you're meant for something more, even if you can't always name it. You are fueled by purpose, perspective, and possibility. But underneath all that freedom-loving energy is often a history of shrinking yourself to be palatable, responsible, or stable, and your soul is done with that version of life. Sagittarius in the first house is your reminder. You don't need permission to evolve. You are the expansion. Now, when this energy is blocked or distorted, you may settle into a version of yourself that's acceptable, even if it feels flat or disconnected from your truth. You may build a personality around being easygoing or fun to avoid emotional depth or real confrontation. You may chase freedom externally, so travel, jobs, changes, while internally staying stuck in old fears or roles. You may constantly reinvent yourself to escape discomfort without fully integrating what you've already learned. You may feel a pull toward a new version of life, but talk yourself out of it with logic, obligation, or fear of judgment. You may also hide behind humor, wit, or wisdom instead of letting yourself be seen in your realness. This is where your soul knows it's time to expand, but you might still be negotiating with the version of you that's afraid of what happens if you go all in. Now, having Sagittarius ruling your first house can show up in your life in various ways. One of them being, you might feel trapped in a life that looks good on paper, but feels small, routine, or disconnected from your bigger vision. You may often get labeled as free-spirited or optimistic, but underneath it, you carry a deep fear of being limited or stuck. You might dim your energy to seem more stable or relatable, especially if you were raised in environments that didn't honor your bigness or wild truth. You may constantly seek the next adventure, certification, or identity shift, but still feel unfulfilled. You may have learned to play a role, such as the smart one, the cool one, the wise one, while secretly longing to be raw, messy, and real. You may also sense that there's something you're meant to do or embody, but you're afraid of outgrowing the life you've already built. This is the house where your identity is not fixed. It's a journey. And your next chapter begins the moment you stop waiting for permission to change. Your soul is asking you to break out of the version of yourself that was designed to survive and become the version that's here to live. Now, for you to reclaim expansion and trust the leap, having Sagittarius ruling your first house, the first step is to say yes to becoming someone new. Stop negotiating with the past. You are not betraying anyone by becoming more of who you really are. Next is to trust your impulses. That urge to change your look, relocate, launch something new, or speak your truth. That's not random. That's your soul calling you forward. Next is to let yourself evolve in public. You don't need to be polished to be powerful. Let people watch you grow. Let them witness the becoming. Next is to redefine stability. It doesn't have to mean staying the same. It can mean trusting yourself through change. Next is to drop the identity you outgrew, the version of you that kept the peace, made everyone comfortable, or did what was expected. You don't need that person anymore. And finally, let your presence be bold. Speak with more truth. Move with more confidence. Let your face, your style, your posture reflect your soul's expansion. You're not here to fit into a box. You're here to inspire people by embodying what's possible when you trust your own path. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius ruling your first house is, I trust who I'm becoming. I release the version of me I settled for, and I choose to live boldly, freely, and fully as my next level self. Let me know what clicked for you and drop it in the comments. And of course, be sure to like, share this with your friends, and subscribe to stay in the flow. And if you're really ready to shift, everything you need is in the description box below. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the second house is a call to radically expand your relationship with self-worth, money, and what you believe you're allowed to have. This placement shows where your soul came to shift from survival mode into abundance mindset, but only if you stop clinging to what feels safe and start claiming what feels aligned. The second house rules your value system, income, self-worth, possessions, and how secure you feel in your body and life. With Sagittarius here, your soul isn't meant to just survive. You're meant to thrive, expand, and explore prosperity as a spiritual path. Sagittarius brings a bigger vision to this house. You're not meant to measure your worth by traditional standards. You're here to redefine wealth in a way that's emotionally, spiritually, and energetically expansive. There's a part of you that deeply knows you're meant for more, but you may have learned to settle for what feels responsible, predictable, or realistic. This placement challenges you to trust your inner knowing about what you deserve, even if the external world hasn't caught up yet. This is where you're being called to ask, what if my abundance expands the more I expand into who I really am? Now, when out of alignment, Sagittarius in the second house can lead to over-giving, overworking, or undercharging because you don't fully trust your worth. Fearing inconsistency, so you cling to stability, even when it's misaligned. Avoiding structure or financial systems because they feel restrictive, but still feeling anxious without them. Chasing freedom while secretly feeling stuck in scarcity or survival mode. Having big dreams, but shrinking your value to seem more practical or responsible. Or even internalizing beliefs like money is hard, or I don't deserve more than I have, or being wealthy makes me less spiritual. This is the house where you've outgrown the version of life that taught you your worth had to be earned, proved, or negotiated. Sagittarius says, it's already yours. You just have to claim it. Now, having Sagittarius ruling your second house can show up in your day-to-day life in several ways. So, you may feel spiritually expansive, but financially stuck. Like your soul is rich, but your bank account isn't. You might undervalue your gifts, charging too little, or hesitate to ask for more, even though others lean on your wisdom. You may desire financial freedom, but fear judgment or failure if you fully pursue it. You may alternate between dreaming big and settling small, chasing bold visions, then dialing them back for safety. You may feel the pull toward a more abundant life, more joy, more rest, more flow, but stay attached to old systems that validate hard work over alignment. Or you may have learned to overfunction, over-prepare, or stay low maintenance to feel worthy of support. This is the house where your soul whispers, you were never meant to earn your worth. You were meant to embody it. Your next level begins when you stop trying to deserve abundance and start living like you already do. Now, to reclaim your expansion and trust the leap, having Sagittarius ruling your second house, the first step is to redefine wealth on your terms. What feels abundant, aligned, and free to you? Start building a life around that definition, not someone else's. Next is to invest in yourself like you're already valuable, not because it proves something, but because it confirms what's already true. Next is to raise your standards, not your workload. Say no to misaligned clients, underpriced offers, or emotionally expensive dynamics. Next is to embody ease. Sagittarius is flow. Start treating simplicity, play, and spaciousness as valuable states of being, not guilty pleasures. Next is to heal your survival-based value system. You don't need to prove, hustle, or earn your way to enough. You already are. And start showing up like the version of you who already knows their worth. Not because you have it all figured out, but because they're already in you, waiting to lead. The more you trust your energetic worth, the more your material world will rise to match it. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius ruling your second house is, I am worthy of expansion, ease, and overflow. I don't have to settle to feel safe. I trust that my value creates my reality. Be sure to let me know what clicked for you and drop it in the comments. And of course, be sure to like, share this with your friends, and subscribe for more. And if you're craving an even deeper shift, my signature sessions and tools are all in the description box below. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the third house is where your thoughts, words, and way of communicating are wired for wisdom, truth, and meaning. But if you've been shrinking your voice to sound normal or stuck explaining yourself to people who don't get it, this is where you've outgrown the old version of self-expression and are being called to speak with boldness and faith. The third house rules your mindset, voice, self-expression, communication style, daily conversations, and learning. When Sagittarius is here, you're not meant for small talk. You're here to speak truth that liberates. You think big. You speak in themes, ideas, and philosophies. You're a natural storyteller, teacher, and soul communicator. But when you shrink your truth to fit in or over-explain to be understood, you cut yourself off from your soul's wisdom. This is the house of mental expansion. And when Sagittarius rules it, your voice becomes a spiritual tool, not just to inform, but to awaken. This placement asks, what could open up in your life if you stopped silencing the version of you who actually knows? When unbalanced, Sagittarius in the third house can manifest as hiding your truth behind humor, intellect, or watered-down versions of what you really think. Over-explaining or doubting your voice because you've been misunderstood in the past. Holding back your ideas out of fear of being too much, too opinionated, or too weird. suppressing your intuition in favor of logic, credentials, or people-pleasing communication. Getting caught in shallow or draining conversations that leave you unfulfilled. Feeling like you're meant to say more, teach more, or share more, but not knowing how to start. Or speaking from the neck up, mentally sharp, but disconnected from your emotional truth. This is the house where your voice has been shaped by survival, but it's meant to be your liberation. Now, Sagittarius in your third house can show up in your life in several ways. So you may feel frustrated or restless in environments where you can't speak your mind. You may find yourself minimizing your ideas, doubting your clarity, or constantly seeking validation before sharing. You may default to being the friendly explainer instead of the bold truth teller. You crave deeper conversations and soul-aligned connections, but often find yourself surrounded by surface-level energy. You may second-guess your intuition, even though it's your most powerful communicator. So you may feel called to teach, write, speak, or share wisdom, but you delay it, constantly edit yourself, or talk yourself out of it. You have brilliant insights, but talk yourself out of sharing them until they're perfect. This is the house where your soul wants to trust your voice more than your fear of being misunderstood. This placement wants you to unlearn the survival voice and return to your soul voice. Now, for you to reclaim this energy of expansion and trust the leap of having Sagittarius in your third house, the first step is to say the real thing. Even if your voice shakes, even if it's messy, even if not everyone gets it, the right people will. Next is to trust that your words are enough. You don't have to be a polished expert to speak truth. Speak as you are. Next is to write it, share it, post it, even if it's not perfect. You grow by expressing, not overanalyzing. Sagittarius learns out loud. Next is to create a mental space that reflects your expansion. Listen to podcasts, read books, and engage in conversations that feed your future, not your fear. Next is to claim your role as a messenger. You didn't come here to just get along. You came here to light minds up, to shift beliefs, and to say something that liberates people, maybe even yourself. And let your intuition speak through your thoughts. You don't have to explain everything logically. Sometimes your clarity is the feeling behind the words. Your voice doesn't need to be louder. It needs to be truer. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius rule in your third house is, my voice is powerful, clear, and divinely guided. I am safe to speak the truth I carry. I don't have to shrink to be heard. I'd love to hear how this resonated with you, so definitely let me know in the comments. And of course, be sure to share this with your friends who can also benefit from this message, and subscribe for more. And if you're craving a deeper shift, my signature sessions and tools are all in the description box below. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the fourth house is deep and often overlooked. This is the house of emotional foundations, family roots, home, and your inner sense of belonging. And when Sagittarius rules it, your soul came here to expand beyond what home once meant. You're not here to stay in the emotional role you were raised in. You're here to outgrow it, rewrite it, and free yourself from it. The fourth house is the soul's emotional core, your origin story, your private world, and your internal compass. With Sagittarius ruling this space, your inner world is meant to evolve, expand, and to move beyond old definitions of home, family, and safety. You may have grown up in a home that was physically mobile, spiritually rich, intellectually curious, or full of chaos or conflicting beliefs. Whatever your story, there's a core theme of emotional movement. You may have learned early on that belonging meant adapting, that home was a place you had to survive, explain yourself in, or eventually leave in order to truly find yourself. Sagittarius here teaches you emotional safety isn't something you return to. It's something you build as you grow. When Sagittarius in the fourth house is unbalanced, it can manifest as restlessness or discomfort with being emotionally settled or still. Feeling disconnected from your roots, but unsure how to create your own. Carrying guilt for emotionally outgrowing your family's beliefs or expectations. Romanticizing freedom, but secretly longing for emotional grounding. Avoiding emotional depth by staying busy, distracted, or always on the move. Internalizing the belief that you can't stay too long or get too close, that home will always slip away. Or feeling like you never fully belonged in the place you came from, but unsure where you do now. This is the house where you've outgrown the emotional identity you were raised in, but might still carry the residue of its expectations. Now, having Sagittarius ruling your fourth house can show up in your life in several different ways. So you may move a lot, struggle to define home, or constantly feel like you're seeking a place to land. You may feel emotionally rootless, deep, wise, and strong on the outside, but ungrounded inside. Your relationship with your family may be warm but distant, loving but ideological, or supportive but misaligned. You may crave emotional freedom, but may fear deep emotional intimacy because of past instability. You may have learned to self-soothe through expansion. So learning, creating, exploring, or planning the next phase. You may often feel safest when you're growing, but unsafe when you have to sit still with your feelings. This is the house where your inner child may still be asking, am I allowed to feel at home if I don't fit into where I came from? Your healing comes when you realize emotional belonging isn't found by returning to the past. It's creating by choosing truth in the present. Now, to reclaim the energy of expansion and trusting the leap, having Sagittarius ruling your fourth house, the first step is to let your emotions evolve. You're not here to stay emotionally loyal to beliefs, roles, or dynamics that no longer serve you. Your feelings are valid, even if your family doesn't understand them. Next is to redefine home as an energy, not a location. Home is the space where your soul feels safe to be itself. Build that, protect it, and let it move with you. Next is to forgive yourself for outgrowing your roots. Expansion isn't betrayal, it's alignment. You're allowed to love your past and still want more. Next is to build a home that reflects your soul, your space, your rituals, your emotional world. Make them expansive, free, and nourishing. Next is to let emotional depth feel like freedom. Vulnerability doesn't have to mean being trapped. You can go deep and stay open. And make peace with not being who they expected. You're not here to fulfill a role. You're here to become a truth. You don't have to choose between growth and belonging. You were meant to have both. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius ruling your fourth house is, I am allowed to outgrow what I once called home. I am building emotional safety on my own terms, rooted in truth, trust, and expansion. Let me know what clicked for you and drop it in the comments. And of course, be sure to like, share this with your friends who can also benefit from this message, and subscribe for more. And if you need more than a vibe check, your full upgrade is waiting for you in the description box below. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the fifth house is pure fire. This is where your soul came to create, express, love, and play boldly. But if you've been toning yourself down to be taken seriously, hiding your gifts to avoid judgment, or delaying happiness in the name of being responsible, this is where you've outgrown the version of life that plays it safe, and your spirit is ready to light up again. The fifth house rules creativity, self-expression, joy, romantic energy, pleasure, and your inner child. When Sagittarius lives here, your soul came to expand through joyful risk, passionate truth, and full embodied expression. You're meant to live out loud, create without rules, fall in love with life, and inspire others with your fire. Your creativity is spiritual, Your joy is magnetic. Your laughter heals rooms. But for this to activate, you have to stop dimming your magic to make others comfortable and start letting yourself shine, even if it's messy, wild, or too much. Sagittarius in the 5th house says, your happiness is your genius. Your fun is your freedom. And your light is your leadership. Now, when this placement is out of alignment, you might hide your creative gifts, believing they're not practical or good enough. You might delay pleasure, fun, or play until you've earned it. You may fall in love with potential, then run when it gets too real. You may tone down your truth in love or art so you don't scare people off. You may romanticize freedom so much that you avoid vulnerability or emotional investment. You may keep your heart guarded because expressing it feels risky or childish. You may judge your joy as silly, selfish, or indulgent. And you may overthink your creative impulses instead of just doing it. This is the house where your spirit wants to soar, but your conditioning might still be whispering. Don't be too loud, too bright, too wild. Now, having Sagittarius ruling your 5th house can show up in several ways. So you might feel creatively stuck, even though you're full of ideas, energy, and visions. You may feel the urge to make something, teach something, or perform, but doubt your right to take up space. You may downplay your talents because you were taught not to show off. You may chase romance or inspiration, but sabotage it when it asks for emotional presence. You may fall into fun, expressive energy, but pull back when others don't meet you there. And you long to be adored, seen, and celebrated, but you hesitate to be fully visible. This is the house where your inner child says, can I really be this joyful, this creative, this loved, and still be taken seriously? And your soul is ready to say, yes. In fact, that's your power. Sagittarius in the 5th wants you to remember your happiness is not a distraction from your purpose. It is your purpose. Now, to begin to reclaim the energy of expansion and trust the leap, having Sagittarius ruling your 5th house, the first step is to stop auditioning. Start expressing. You don't have to wait for permission to create, shine, or be loved. Show up as you are. That's where the magic lives. Next is to let your creativity be messy, wild, and fun. Stop holding it to perfectionistic standards. Your soul wants to play, not perform. Next is to love with more truth. Say what you mean. Take romantic risk. Be bold in your affection. Let love be your expansion teacher. Next is to do what excites you, even if it makes no sense. Your next level isn't found through logic. It's felt through joy. Next is to claim your space. Whether you're painting, dancing, speaking, building, take up space with your creative essence. And reignite your inner child. Visit the joy that came before shame. What did you love before you learned it wasn't useful? The world doesn't need you to be more serious to be valuable. It needs your light, your joy, your wild freedom to remind it how to feel alive again. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius ruling your fifth house is, my happiness is sacred. I express my truth boldly, love freely, and create without apology. I am worthy of being seen in my full radiance. Let me know what hit home for you and drop it in the comments below. And, of course, be sure to like, share this with your friends, and subscribe for more. And if you're ready to fully activate your next level, my signature sessions and tools are all in the description box below. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the sixth house is where your soul came to redefine work, wellness, structure, and service in a way that supports your expansion, not your exhaustion. If you've been stuck in routines that drain you, careers that box you in, or habits that leave no room for life, this is where you've outgrown the version of productivity you were taught, and it's time to build something bigger, freer, and more meaningful. The sixth house rules your daily routines, work environment, habits, health, and service. With Sagittarius here, your soul didn't come to do things by the book. You came to expand what work means, heal through freedom, and serve from a place of joy, not obligation. You're not meant to clock in, clock out, and repeat. You thrive when your days are infused with purpose, learning, movement, and inspired action. You have a gift for finding meaning in the mundane, if you're allowed to do it your way. Sagittarius in the sixth house asks you to create a life where your calendar reflects your calling, not just your conditioning. You grow most when your systems serve your soul, not when your soul is sacrificed to a system. Now, when this energy is blocked or unbalanced, you may stay in secure jobs or rigid routines that crush your spirit. You may overwork, overgive, or overfunction because you were taught that service equates sacrifice. You may resist structure completely, then feel chaotic, scattered, or out of control. You may attach your self-worth to how productive or helpful you are. You may fear committing to a path because you associate consistency with confinement. You may ignore your health until your body forces you to slow down. And you may get stuck in routines that feel soulless, even if they make sense. This is the house where you've outgrown the idea that you have to suffer to be useful, and your soul is ready for a life that works with you, not against you. Now, Sagittarius ruling your sixth house can show up in your day-to-day life in several ways. So you may jump between jobs, diets, planners, or routines, searching for one that doesn't feel soul crushing. You either overstructure your day or avoid structure entirely. You are a natural at uplifting others through service, teaching, or healing, but often neglect your own needs. You may burn out easily when your daily life lacks meaning, movement, or inspiration. You may feel guilt around rest, leisure, or doing things your way. You crave freedom, but fear that if you slow down, everything will fall apart. And you're likely called to serve in big ways, but your systems haven't caught up with your soul. This is the house where your spirit asks, what if my work, habits, and health could expand me instead of shrink me? Sagittarius in the sixth house teaches that alignment is the best strategy and joy is the most productive state you can be in. Now, to begin to reclaim the energy of expansion and trust the leap, having Sagittarius ruling your sixth house, the first step is to stop outsourcing your rhythm. Build routines around your natural energy flow, not what you were taught is efficient. Next is to make your daily life reflect your bigger mission. Whether it's how you serve others, nourish your body, or structure your time, let it all feel connected to your why. Next is to heal your relationship with rest. Productivity doesn't equate worth. Joy, presence, and well-being are success. Next is to add movement, nature, and spaciousness to your day. Sagittarius needs breath. Your nervous system thrives on freedom. Next is to create rituals instead of rules. Infuse your daily habits with intention. Let brushing your teeth, making your coffee, or opening your laptop be sacred, not robotic. And expand your definition of service. You don't have to serve through burnout. The more lit up you are, the more powerful your work becomes. When your systems support your spirit, consistency becomes freedom, not a cage. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius ruling your sixth house is, I release the need to prove my worth through doing. My daily life supports my expansion. I work, heal, and serve in a way that sets me free. I'd love to hear how this resonated with you, so definitely let me know in the comments. And of course, be sure to like, share this with your friends, and subscribe for more. And if you're ready to fully activate your next level, my signature sessions and tools are all in the description box below. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the seventh house is where your soul came to experience expansion through relationships, not through clinging, shrinking, or trying to be what someone else needs. This is where your partnerships are meant to be a launch pad, not a leash. And if you've been settling for safe love that keeps you small, this is where you've outgrown the emotional contract and your soul is ready for liberation through truth. The seventh house governs partnerships, love, marriage, contracts, and the mirror others hold up to you. With Sagittarius here, your soul came to learn through connection, but not in the conventional sense. You expand through relationships that challenge your mindset, ignite your purpose, and reflect your wildest potential. You're not here for surface level bonds or relationships built on comfort alone. You crave connection that feels big, real, expansive, and spiritually aligned. Love is a portal. The right partnership should awaken more life, not make you feel like less of yourself. Sagittarius here asks, are your relationships helping you evolve or keeping you emotionally housebroken? When out of alignment, Sagittarius in the seventh house may show up as settling for safe love that doesn't challenge or inspire you. Attracting partners who limit your growth, or trying to be the partner who shrinks to fit. It can show up as a fear of commitment, emotional vulnerability, or being tied down. Seeking freedom through detachment instead of through truth. Idolizing partners for their potential, then feeling disillusioned when reality sets in. Avoiding deep emotional intimacy by making everything light, philosophical, or cool. Playing the wise, easygoing partner to avoid expressing your real needs or wounds. This is the house where you might mistake freedom for avoidance or love for emotional labor, when your soul is asking for something higher. Now, Sagittarius in your seventh house can show up in several different ways. So you may bounce between free spirit mode and craving partnership, then sabotage it when it feels too emotionally demanding. You're magnetic, open-minded, and emotionally intelligent, but you often attract people who aren't emotionally available or who need you to shrink. You feel a deep desire for spiritual connection and love, but your past relationships may have been based on chemistry, chaos, or convenience. You find yourself teaching, guiding, or expanding your partners, but not always being emotionally supported in return. You long for a soulmate who challenges and excites you, but part of you fears what will be required to keep that kind of love. And you feel most alive in relationships that feel like growth journeys, but may struggle to stay when the high wears off and the depth begins. This is the house where your inner truth whispers. You're not here to be chosen by someone who keeps you small. You're here to grow beside someone who sees your soul. Sagittarius in the seventh reminds you that partnership isn't about possession. It's about evolution. You're here to experience love as a sacred journey, not a job description. Now, to reclaim the energy of expansion and trust the leap of having Sagittarius in your seventh house, the first step is to get radically honest about what you want, not what's polite, convenient, or expected, but what actually makes your soul come alive. Next is to choose depth over drama. You don't need chaos to feel alive. Find someone who expands you through truth, not emotional instability. Next is to speak your truth early and often. Stop diluting your needs to seem chill. You're not too much. You're just not for small love. Next is to let go of outdated love contracts. You don't have to keep playing roles: caretaker, teacher, the one who holds it all together. Let love be equal. Next is to create space within the relationship. Freedom isn't about leaving. It's about not abandoning yourself while staying. And see partnership as a spiritual mirror. Every connection reflects where you're free and where you're still negotiating with old wounds. You're not here to be half loved or half seen. You're here to be met, mirrored, and moved. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius in your 7th house is, I am worthy of expansive, soul-awakening love. I no longer shrink to be chosen. I rise to be met. Let me know what clicked for you and drop it in the comments. And of course, be sure to like, share this with your friends who can also benefit from this message, and subscribe to stay in the flow. And if you're done playing small, your next level tools are below in the description box. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the 8th house is such a powerful placement. This house is all about intimacy, transformation, shared energy, soul contracts, and what we fear losing control over. When Sagittarius rules this realm, your soul's expansion requires deep emotional and energetic risk. You can't grow unless you let go. When Sagittarius rules your 8th house, your soul is here to expand through emotional surrender, spiritual intimacy, and deep energetic transformation. This is not surface level growth. It's death and rebirth level. Your next evolution is tied to your willingness to face what you've buried, share what you've been protecting, and trust what you can't control. This house wants you to learn. The more you release, the more you rise. You came here to outgrow old emotional patterns, ancestral wounds, and hidden fears around loss, power, intimacy, or vulnerability. Your transformation is sacred, but it requires truth, risk, and radical faith. This house rules the part of life we don't talk about: sex, death, shared power, grief, trauma, intimacy, money, and the deep undercurrent of soul contracts. You're wired to seek freedom, meaning, and higher understanding from what most people try to avoid. You grow through the emotional intensity of life, not by escaping it. Your biggest transformations will come through being emotionally and energetically cracked open, through letting go of who you thought you had to be, through allowing others to truly see you, not just the wise, evolved, or spiritual version of you, but the real you underneath all the armor. This house doesn't just teach you about loss. It teaches you that some things have to die for your soul to truly live. When unbalanced, Sagittarius in the 8th house can lead to emotional bypassing, trying to think your way through transformation rather than feeling your way through it. So you may avoid vulnerability by intellectualizing your pain or turning everything into a teaching moment before you've actually healed it. You may fear true intimacy, not because you don't want closeness, but because being deeply known feels risky and destabilizing. You may seek spiritual growth while resisting emotional release, holding on to outdated beliefs that being strong means staying in control. You may cling to emotional independence, even when your soul is craving shared emotional depth. You may suppress grief, shame, or trauma in favor of staying positive, enlightened, or detached. You may also feel that growth is only valid when it's dramatic or profound, overlooking the smaller, everyday surrenders that actually change you most. This house reveals where you say you want freedom, but secretly equate letting go with losing control, and where your expansion is currently blocked by your fear of what happens if you let go too much. Sagittarius ruling your 8th house can show up in your day-to-day life in a number of ways. So you may attract emotionally intense or karmic partners who trigger your deepest fears, then ghost, collapse, or spiral when it gets too real. You might carry a pattern of being the emotionally detached wise one in relationships, spiritual, centered, and calm, but emotionally unavailable at the core. You might use sex, healing work, or mysticism as tools for transformation, yet still resist going all the way in emotionally. You may fear emotional dependence, so you keep emotional backup plans, avoid commitment, or emotionally withdraw under pressure. You may feel shame around your emotional intensity, sexual energy, or trauma, so you avoid intimacy to avoid exposure. You may often feel called to explore taboo or transformative subjects, such as death, rebirth, esoteric teachings, energetic exchange, but you hesitate to share your real experiences with others out of fear of judgment or being too much. This is the part of your life where your soul whispers. Freedom doesn't come from escaping the dark. It comes from walking through it with truth. This is the house where your soul wants to release the emotional baggage that no longer belongs to you. Walk through the fire and emerge clearer, lighter, and more connected to truth. But expansion here doesn't come from figuring it out. It comes from letting go. Now, to reclaim your expansion and trust the leap, having Sagittarius ruling your 8th house, the first step is to practice spiritual surrender instead of control. Every time you grip tightly to what you've outgrown, whether it's a relationship, identity, story, or old wound, you block your next evolution. Sagittarius asks you to leap, not latch on. Next is to stop performing emotional depth and start living it. You don't need to turn every feeling into a concept or every experience into a lesson. Sometimes just letting yourself break is the bravest thing you can do. Next is to embrace spiritual intimacy. Open to relationships and experiences that challenge your walls and awaken your truth. Let someone see you before you've polished your pain into poetry. That's when real intimacy begins. Next is to clear energetic clutter. Old energetic cords, debts, trauma bonds, shame spirals, they all take up space. You grow faster when you subconsciously clear what's still looping in your subconscious. Next is to let death be part of your freedom. This could be the death of an old mindset, role, relationship, or belief system. Stop resisting endings. Sagittarius here says, the leap is your liberation. And finally, transform your relationship with trust. Trust isn't about predicting the outcome. It's about expanding your capacity to be with the unknown. This is where your soul becomes the phoenix. Not because you're fearless, but because you're finally ready to trust the fire will free you. A great affirmation having Sagittarius ruling your 8th house is, I trust the leap. I release what no longer defines me. I am safe to transform, to be seen, and to rise into a life that reflects who I've become. I'd love to hear how this resonated with you, so definitely let me know in the comments below. And of course, be sure to like, share with your friends, and subscribe to stay in the flow. And if you're craving a deeper shift, my signature sessions and tools are all in the description box below. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the 9th house is such a potent placement because it's Sagittarius in its natural domain. This is where your chart shouts, you were born to outgrow everything. It's the house of expansion, truth, wisdom, purpose, and vision. And when you've been living inside a belief system, life path, or worldview that no longer stretches you, this is the part of your soul that gets restless, hungry, and ready to leap. The 9th house is the terrain of higher education, spiritual beliefs, philosophy, long-distance travel, and your search for meaning. When Sagittarius rules this house, you're not just here to expand. You're here to embody expansion itself. This is the house of the seeker, the teacher, the global soul, the visionary. And Sagittarius here means that your soul is always asking, what else is out there? What else is possible? What do I believe now? And who am I becoming because of it? You are wired for exploration, not just physical travel, but the kind of soul travel that dismantles old paradigms and launches you into wild, sacred truth. You grow through experience, trial and error, deep curiosity, and the willingness to leave what you've outgrown, even if you loved it once. You're here to shed outdated beliefs, dead-end ideologies, and the comfort zones of spiritual stagnation. When you stay too long in a mindset that no longer fits, you begin to shrink in on yourself because your soul is ready to soar. But this kind of growth requires trust. The ninth house with Sagittarius asks you to leap into expansion before you know where you'll land, because your wings only activate mid-air. Now, when out of alignment, this placement can show up as staying loyal to belief systems, mentors, or cultural narratives that no longer reflect who you've become. Feeling stuck in your purpose, but afraid to redefine it. Letting fear of judgment or failure keep you small, even when your soul is begging for more. Thinking you have to have the whole plan mapped out before taking the leap. Doubting your right to teach, lead, or explore because of imposter syndrome or perfectionism. Settling for inspiration without integration. Getting excited about growth, but not fully living it. As well as confusing knowledge with truth. Learning more, but trusting yourself less. This is the house where your soul is ready to burn the old maps and write a new one based on who you're becoming, not who you were raised to be. Now, Sagittarius ruling your ninth house can show up in your day-to-day life in several ways. So, you may find yourself craving a life that feels bigger, freer, more aligned spiritually, but unsure where to start. You may often feel like you're meant to teach, guide, or inspire, but hesitate to step into that role fully. You might feel torn between wanting structure and longing to break out of it. You thrive in environments that allow for freedom, open-mindedness, and continuous learning, but tend to shrink around people who don't see or support your vision. You've likely outgrown a belief system, religion, or life plan you were handed, but may carry guilt or fear around releasing it. You may also experience emotional fatigue or intense burnout when you're not living in alignment with your bigger truth. This is the house where your inner fire whispers, "You've already outgrown this story. It's time to live the next one." Sagittarius in the ninth house reminds you that your soul doesn't need certainty. It needs permission to explore. Now, to begin to reclaim the energy of expansion and trust the leap, having Sagittarius ruling your ninth house, the first step is to let go of needing to know how it ends. You are being guided. The way forward unfolds through action, not overthinking. Next is to update your beliefs to match your evolution. What once saved you might now be limiting you. Let it go. Next is to give yourself spiritual freedom. You don't need to belong to a system, label, or lineage to be wise. Your experience is sacred. Next is to follow the spark of curiosity. The next version of your life is already whispering through books, dreams, conversations, callings. Start moving toward it. Next is to trust your voice as a teacher. What you do know, what you've lived, is enough to guide, share, and inspire. And say yes before you're ready. Sagittarius doesn't wait for confidence. It moves with conviction, and the confidence catches up. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius ruling your 9th house is, I trust the leap. I follow my truth. I am safe to expand beyond what I've known and create a life that reflects who I truly am. If this stirred something in you, say so in the comments. I want to hear it. And of course, be sure to like, share this with your friends, and subscribe for more. And if you want more than a vibe check, your full upgrade is waiting for you in the description box below. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the 10th house is one of the boldest placements for career, legacy, and soul alignment. This is where your life is meant to expand publicly through purpose, visibility, and truth-led leadership. But if you've been living under someone else's definition of success, stuck in roles that look good but feel small, this is where you've outgrown the life path you once chased, and your soul is ready to take the leap into your real calling. The 10th house rules your career, legacy, reputation, authority, and public life. It's how the world sees you and the mark you're here to leave behind. With Sagittarius here, your soul didn't come to play it safe. You're here to lead, inspire, and shift the collective through vision, truth, and growth. You're not meant for jobs that feel scripted or suffocating. You're not here to climb someone else's ladder. You're here to build your own mountain, one that reflects your voice, values, and purpose. There's a wild wisdom inside of you that can't be taught. It's lived. Your impact doesn't come from being the best at something. It comes from being the most real, the most aligned, the most free. When you trust your purpose, people feel it. But when you shrink your vision to stay practical, your soul starts to starve. Sagittarius in the 10th house is here to remind you you're not meant to follow the path. You're meant to be the path. Now, when this energy is out of alignment, it can show up as settling for successful roles that aren't aligned with your deeper truth. Feeling like your career is fine on paper, but dead on a soul level. Playing small to avoid judgment, instability, or failure. Fearing the leap into entrepreneurship, visibility, or a passion-based path. taking on too many directions at once without anchoring into a clear purpose. Holding back your beliefs, opinions, or ideas in public spaces to avoid backlash. And even internalizing a version of success that was handed to you, not chosen by you. This is the house where you may have built a reputation, but now realize it doesn't reflect your real self. And it's time to correct the course. Now, Sagittarius in your 10th house can show up in your day-to-day life in several ways. So you may feel pressure to make something of yourself according to external timelines, but your soul wants freedom over form. You may bounce between career paths or job titles, searching for the one that actually fits. You may long to be a leader, guide, or teacher, but question your credibility or readiness. You're called to something bigger, but feel guilty leaving behind the version of success others admire. You may fear judgment for wanting more, for wanting freedom, purpose, and income that reflects your truth. And you may feel most alive when your work allows you to teach, speak, travel, inspire, or serve with meaning, not just to get ahead. This is the house where your soul is done settling, and the only way forward is up on your own terms. Sagittarius in the 10th house teaches that true success isn't earned, it's aligned. You rise when you choose your truth over your title. Now, to reclaim the energy of expansion and trust the leap, having Sagittarius in your 10th house, the first step is to redefine what success means to you. Is it freedom, impact, happiness, integrity? Let that shape your next move, not fear, money, or approval. Next is to own your voice publicly, whether it's through content, leadership, or how you show up at work. Speak like someone who knows what they carry. Next is to build a legacy from truth, not performance. Stop being who people expect. Start becoming who your purpose represents. Next is to leap before you feel ready. Sagittarius learns through action. The longer you wait for clarity, the further you get from momentum. Next is to say yes to your calling, even if no one else gets it yet. The dream lives in you, not in their understanding of it. And let your career become a vehicle for your soul, not a cage for your identity. You don't have to dim your light to be taken seriously. The world doesn't need another role filler. It needs someone who shows what's possible when purpose leads the way. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius in your 10th house is, I release the version of success I settled for. I rise into my calling with truth, vision, and freedom as a guide. Let me know what hit home for you and drop it in the comments. And of course, be sure to like, share this with your friends who can also benefit from this message, and subscribe for more. And if you're ready to really shift, everything you need is in the description box below. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the 11th house is a placement that makes you a vision holder, truth bringer, and future shaper. This is the part of your chart that rules your dreams, your people, and the impact you're meant to have on the world. But if you've been keeping your vision quiet, shrinking in your circles, or trying to fit in with communities that no longer match your truth, this is where you've outgrown the version of life you've settled for, and your soul is ready to leap. The 11th house rules your community, social impact, long-term dreams, and the collective future you're here to shape. With Sagittarius here, you were born to dream beyond the norm and uplift the world with your wisdom, fire, and optimism. Your soul expands through visionary friendships, purpose-driven networks, and big picture goals that mean something. You're not here to blend in or follow trends. You're here to pioneer a path that brings freedom and truth to the people you serve. You're meant to rise as a leader in communities that value truth over performance, freedom over conformity, and evolution over popularity. But when you settle for staying small to be accepted, or downplay your beliefs to avoid rocking the boat, your soul contracts. Sagittarius in the 11th house teaches, you were never meant to just fit in. You were born to shift the room. Now, when out of alignment, Sagittarius in the 11th may show up as feeling disconnected from your friend groups, online spaces, or the wider community. Being surrounded by people who reflect your past self instead of your future self. Playing the lighthearted, wise friend while hiding your own loneliness or longing for deeper connection. Suppressing your vision to avoid seeming arrogant, unrealistic, or too much. Feeling spiritually or ideologically isolated in the communities you're a part of. Being afraid to step into leadership or visibility, even though your soul is calling to. Or questioning whether your dreams are too big to be real or too different to be supported. This is the house where your soul asks, what if I stopped shrinking in groups and started leading the one I actually needed? Now, Sagittarius ruling your 11th house can show up in your day-to-day life in several ways. So, you might long for a soul tribe that sees your vision, supports your growth, and challenges you to dream bigger. You might often feel out of place in surface-level conversations or status-driven spaces. You may feel pressure to make your dream realistic, just to gain approval or fit in. You may be inspired by causes or global issues, but struggle to find your unique role in them. You want to be visible, to share your ideas, to build something meaningful, but fear rejection, failure, or being misunderstood. And you may play the connector, motivator, or advisor in your community, but rarely feel like someone's holding that same space for you. This is the house where your spirit knows your dream isn't just for you. It's meant to ripple through the collective. Sagittarius in the 11th house calls you to build the vision, find your people, and lead the future you're here to help create. Now, to reclaim the energy of expansion and trust the leap of having Sagittarius in your 11th house, the first step is to stop shrinking your dream for the sake of fitting in. The people it's meant for will recognize it without explanation. Next is to curate your circles with intention. Choose friends, collaborators, and online spaces that reflect your next level, not your last. Next is to let your dream be public. Share the thing you've been working on in silence. Your visibility plants seeds for others. Next is to define your mission and dare to believe it's possible. You're here to expand minds, shift systems, and offer something different. Own that. Next is to lead with your beliefs. Whether you're building a brand, movement, or a message, make it rooted in what matters most to you. And detach from old group dynamics that feel safe but stagnant. Safety is not the same as alignment. Choose evolution. The world needs your vision more than your approval rating. Lead with truth, and your real community will find you. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius ruling your 11th house is, I no longer hide my dream to be accepted. I am building a future that reflects my truth, and I attract the community that rises with me. If this stirs something in you, say so in the comments. I want to hear it. And of course, be sure to like, share this with your friends who can also benefit from this message, and subscribe for more. And if you're done playing small, your next level tools are below in the description box. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching. Sagittarius in the 12th house is one of the most mystical, karmic, and soul-expanding placements of them all. This is the house of spiritual memory, hidden truth, ancestral wisdom, and divine timing. And when Sagittarius lives here, your greatest expansion doesn't come from chasing it. It comes from surrendering to it. This is where your soul is being called to outgrow fear, control, and isolation, and step into trust, openness, and sacred freedom. The 12th house is the hidden ocean of the birth chart, the realm of the unconscious, past lives, divine connection, solitude, healing, and surrender. When Sagittarius is here, your soul carries a karmic contract to expand spiritually, trust what you cannot see, and break free from invisible limitations. You are deeply intuitive, spiritually curious, and connected to truths most people overlook. But this wisdom may not always feel accessible. It often lives in your dreams, in solitude, or in quiet inner knowings that you struggle to explain. Sagittarius here often means you've outgrown the survival version of spirituality, where you suppress your emotions, stay in the light, or keep your beliefs quiet to stay safe. You're not here to hide behind spiritual perfection. You're here to live with spiritual freedom. This is the house where your expansion looks like surrender, where your leap of faith isn't external, it's internal. You grow by releasing what you cling to. You thrive when you stop trying to be in control. Your magic lies in remembering you are already guided. You always have been. Now, when this placement is out of alignment, it can show up as feeling disconnected from your spiritual path or unsure what faith really means to you. It could be suppressing your intuition or visions out of fear of being judged, dismissed, or misunderstood. It can show up as avoiding emotional healing by staying philosophical or spiritually bypassing. It can show up as feeling isolated, like no one really gets you on a soul level. It could be craving deep solitude, but fearing it at the same time. Dismissing your deeper calling because it doesn't feel logical or tangible. It's staying stuck in unconscious patterns from past lives, family lineage, or emotional trauma that you've outgrown but haven't named yet. This is the house where your soul whispers, "You've been hiding in plain sight. You don't have to protect your truth anymore." Now, Sagittarius in your 12th house can show up in several ways in your day-to-day life. So, you may feel drawn to healing, mysticism, meditation, or past life work, but struggle to fully trust your connection to it. You may often feel like you're carrying something deeper than you can explain, a quiet knowing, a sacred ache, a hidden wisdom. You might look like a wanderer or teacher on the outside, but inside you are on a spiritual pilgrimage no one sees. You may feel creatively or spiritually blocked until you spend time alone, where your intuition finally breathes. You may crave a connection to something bigger, God, spirit, your guides, the universe, but something feels like you're reaching without receiving. You may have learned to stay light in public, even when privately your soul is moving through deep alchemy. This is the house where your healing lies in trusting the unseen and expanding inward, not just outward. Sagittarius in the 12th house is your reminder that your highest truth lives within, not outside of you. Your soul expands when you stop chasing and start remembering. Now, to reclaim the energy of expansion and trust the leap, having Sagittarius in your 12th house, The first step is to honor your solitude as sacred. You're not hiding, you're refueling. Your downloads come in stillness. Next is to let go of needing it to make sense. Your intuition doesn't speak in logic. Trust the sensation, the sign, the knowing. Next is to stop shrinking your spirituality to seem normal. You were never meant to fit into what's small, flat, or surface level. Next is to name what you've outgrown in silence. Beliefs, energetic contracts, ancestral burdens. They're ready to be released. Next is to let rest, dreams, and creativity be portals. That book idea, that poem, that recurring dream, it's not random, it's guidance. And allow spiritual expansion without performance. You don't need to prove your enlightenment. You just need to be real in your connection. You don't need to find the path. You are the path. And your next chapter begins when you stop running and start receiving. A great affirmation for you having Sagittarius in your 12th house is, I release the need to force clarity. I am guided, protected, and expanding through trust, surrender, and divine timing. Let me know what clicked for you and drop it in the comments. And of course, be sure to like, share this with your friends, and subscribe to stay in the flow. And if you're done playing small, your next level tools are below in the description box. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for watching.